Live from parts unknown, you're listening to Simon Miller's Pro Wrestling Podcast, the only wrestling podcast on the planet, we think. Sit back, relax, prepare for positivity to run through your veins as Simon Miller gives you your weekly dose of powerful pro wrestling audio. It is Miller Time.
Hello and welcome to Simon Miller's Pro Wrestling Show, going down on this historic day in wrestling history where nobody can contain themselves. Some people are just happy for wrestling. Some people are saying Team NXT. Some people are saying Team AEW. It reminds me of the late 90s. And if you were around for that time, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you never listened to the podcast before, it's nice and simple. I'm a bull-headed asshole. You may recognize me from What Culture Wrestling. And I like to check out wrestling so much, I have my own podcast. And we basically can't, well, there's multiple episodes a week now. But some you'll get on YouTube. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel right now. Just search for Simon Miller. But some I like to reach out to my Patreon, again, patreon.com/Simon316, dropping all the cheap plugs in here, because that's basically funds and supports all my personal projects, which is why I'm able to smash out these podcasts as and when. We do videos on the YouTube channel, and there's a whole bunch of other stuff. If you could head on over there, and if you've got $1 in your pocket, you think, man, I wouldn't mind giving it, please do. If not, just give my YouTube channel a subscribe. That's all I ask. And I couldn't have got a better guest on, I don't think, for today's discussions, especially because the ratings for AEW and NXT have dropped around about a minute ago as we started recording. And, well, look, he's been on before. His knowledge of wrestling is ridiculous. It's my man, Stan. Stan, let's start off by being polite and talking. How are you doing, my friend?
I am doing very wonderful, my friend. Actually, I got to tell you, when we set this up, some friends of mine actually earlier in the week wanted me to go out last night. I said, sorry, I have research to do. I took
Amazing.
notes. I took notes on the AEW show. I did not tell them that this is what I was doing, but I'm like, sorry, you guys can get me any other night, but not tonight. I'm like, I have things to prepare for. I'm like, I have a very important project that's coming up, and that would be this for us to discuss all of this.
Amazing, dude. Well, we are going to get right into it. Again, if you haven't heard Stan on the podcast before, long-term fan, has crazy knowledge, crazy stories. So you understand what's going on right now. And not that it matters that if people didn't experience the Monday Night Wars first time around. But, you know, the fact that, we'll just start with the ratings, screw it. I mean, the fact that there is, I mean, I think just given the rise of the internet and social media, you know, people in general are, they're just more into the ratings that maybe they, I mean, people discussed them in the late 90s, but now they're so accessible, it's kind of easier just to jump in. So I don't know how true this all is. I mean, Meltzer's talking about it, Fightful are talking about it. It's all over Reddit. So I'm going to assume that people are happy that these are, you know, confirmed numbers. And around 9 p.m. UK time is usually when they break, which would mean not only did NXT not break 1 million viewers for the first time since they moved to the USA network, they did 891,000, but AEW smashed 1.4 million viewers. Now, I'll start with you, Stan. Like, what was your expectations? I understand people, why don't you talk about NXT? Well, it's because AEW is the brand new thing, and that's just how human brains work. What did you expect AEW to do? And let's do it all in one. What did you think of the show? What do you think of AEW in general? And what do you think of a number being 1.4 million?
Well, the 1.4 million doesn't, I got to be honest, it doesn't surprise me. And as you mentioned, I mean, ratings are so hard to really quantify. I watched the AEW show last night live. I watched NXT on Hulu and streaming today. Now, I feel because NXT is, I mean, obviously a lot of buzz. It's a newer product, whereas people know where they can go find NXT. They know where they, you know, the network on Hulu and other devices probably, and I agree with that. Like myself, like, okay, I'm going to watch the new product. I'm going to see what they have to offer.
Yeah, definitely.
And then I know and have, for lack of a better word, I have comfort in the fact, knowing what the card was, that NXT is going to give me good they're going to deliver, because they almost always do. So I'm surprised it was that big of a difference, but I'm not surprised that AEW won. As far as what my expectation was, I've actually tried on most forms of entertainment to temper my expectations, because inevitably I will be disappointed if I have too high of expectations, because people will put in their head, okay, this is, I mean, we see it with movies all the time. This is what people expect a movie to be. If it doesn't match that, then it's the worst thing they've ever seen. When that's not actually the truth. It's just, it didn't meet what you had in your mind. So,
oh man, yeah.
So I was excited about it, but I'll be honest. One of the things that did not happen that I was worried about, I was worried that Brandy Rhodes and Cody Rhodes would be in every 3 minutes of the show, frankly. And that they would be, especially Brandy, I thought she was going to somehow interject herself or somehow with the women's title match. I was actually very surprised that there was not a lot of, for lack of a better word, repeat business as far as the same people showing up in segment after segment after segment. That made me happy, is that it was a variety of people, an introduction to a variety of people.
Yeah, dude, totally, man. And I think you've hit the nail on the head when it comes to... these numbers are important because they will get social media buzz and they will drive wrestling media. They drove this podcast from nowhere, right? Because it was an interesting thing. But there is a caveat and there is an asterisk next to it, and that is, yes, one, AEW's brand new, and that is, like I said, that's always going to be more exciting to the wrestling fan. But on top of that, you can watch NXT 24 hours later. You know, we don't live in this world where you have to wait anymore. You know, you have to wait, but, you know, it's not like if you miss one on television, you're absolutely screwed. Like, you know that around this time, it's going to pop up on the WWE Network. You pay your $10, you're intrigued by AEW. The real key, as you said, is the product that AEW put out there and whether somebody liked it or whether somebody didn't like it. And I actually think you've got it spot on. Like, you know, we did see the Young Bucks, we did see Jericho, we did see Cody Rhodes, but at no point did they feel like they were overshadowing the product. Right. They didn't feel like they were the center part of the product. Obviously, if you're the main event scene, you feel like you have a bigger deal, but that comes down to star power and who knows what else. But no, I thought it was very well balanced. I thought they introduced characters well. And let's not forget, there's still, 10, 15, 20 people. We still have to wait and see what they're going to do.
Absolutely. Hashtag Luchasaurus.
Oh man, I mean, I'm glad he wasn't on the show. Not glad, but I don't care that he wasn't on the show. But at the same time, that guy's money, man. I don't know how a dinosaur can be money, but he somehow is money. I don't really get it. That's why I love wrestling, because I can't really get my head around how these things take off. What did you think about the show in general? And obviously, you mentioned that you thought it was far more balanced than you were hoping. I mean, it's difficult for us being hardcore fans, but do you know, as well as yourself, can you see other people wanting to choose? Because it's next week that counts, right? You know, let's say that 200, 300, 400,000 people tuned in because it did get so much buzz. And I went, it was okay. I mean, I'm not saying they would think that. I didn't think that, but you can't account for everybody. So that's the real key. It's where we are at in 7 days' time.
I mean, I enjoyed it. I think part of it, as far as me, for being, as you know, long term fan, what's going to help me as time goes on is getting invested in the characters. I will admit, for example, when I watched the NXT show, because I'm so like, I literally jumped up out of my chair when Ciampa came out. Like, literally, like when his music started playing and then you see the word Ciampa, I'm like, dude, you're 51 years old. You should not be this excited. But I was this excited. I was that excited when Finn Balor came out. You know, when Jack Hager came out, I'm like, oh, that's okay. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and I get it. Yeah, because you're more invested in one product, and totally understand that.
But I was really, I was excited to see MJF. I hope Brandon Cutler's okay. That knee thing, when he legitimately looked like he hurt himself.
Yeah, I didn't pick up on that at that time. It's one of those things where I just assumed
it's a work.
Yeah, and it just skated on by me. And then I sort of, you go on the internet, you're like, oh wait, no, maybe I've missed something here.
Yeah, in fact, I think when he was standing on the top rope, his knee buckled, and then he jumped down. So I hope he's okay. I thought Cody and that match, for me, I think that just went on, and then like the post-match beatdown went a little long overall. I guess my biggest gripe was, and you mentioned it on Ups and Downs, like the DQ when Moxley came in, like where was that? And then the camera's literally following them while there's your main event matches going on in the ring, and we're not seeing. Because I was excited to see the Young Bucks, and I'm like, okay, you just took 5 minutes of the main event match away from me, following these two guys through the crowd. But overall, I enjoyed it. I didn't feel it was a quick 2 hours. I didn't feel it was a waste of my time in any shape or form. I guess my other, not necessarily a complaint, but just kind of head scratcher, I thought the women's match was placed at a weird spot in the card, kind of in the pre-main event slot.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. I know what you mean.
Like maybe it should have been put at the top of an hour or something. And then really the only other thing is maybe if they wanted to do the Moxley beatdown, like maybe have Omega face, and I'm completely just blanked on his name, in the first match, the guy that faced
Sammy Guevara.
Sammy Guevara, like maybe have him fight Guevara, and then Moxley beat him down afterwards. And, just I just that beatdown, just the timing of it, and just that was kind of just weird and took me a little bit out of the main event match. But no, I thought it was good. I think I did think that even in losing, they overall made Sammy feel important by the end of the show.
Yeah, I agree. I thought it was one of the best sort of subplots that they did, that by the end of the night you forgot that he lost.
Yeah.
You were just like, oh man, he's a massive asshole. Okay.
Yeah, he is. And now he's, standing with Jericho and the team formerly known as LAX. He felt important because he's not only in there, but he's also with the Young Bucks and again with Cody. So he really felt like a big thing. So I thought he got a big boost. And I said this, in a quick super chat earlier, Pac comes across like just main event written all over him.
Totally agree.
He should never be a good guy again. First off, like he just carries himself like, try and beat me, and you can't. Like he honestly carries him. He reminds me in that attitude of Drew McIntyre. That whole, even though Drew tends to lose a lot, but just that whole, he's going to kill you.
Yeah, honestly, man.
And there's nothing you can do about it. His black arrow into that submission. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, that's the world beater right there.
It's cool as well, isn't it? I like this idea that as a bad guy, he now relies on a submission. I don't know why I like that. I guess because it's just so savage. It's almost like, I know I could beat you after the red arrow, black arrow, whatever we're calling it now, but I'm still going to lock you in this really, really horrific submission hold just to get you to tap out. And I totally agree with you. To me, Pac is... It's just, I don't know, he's just found himself with this heel character. Yeah, it's like, ever since he started doing it in sort of, 205 Live and from there, he's grown into it. And I mean, we obviously watch wrestling differently because we know his past and his present and, where we'd like to see him down the line. But I even think if somebody had just tuned in, the way he holds himself, his facial expressions. I know I listened to the Wrestling Observer earlier, and Dave Meltzer was actually quite critical over the fact he thought that match was quite slow. I didn't really pick up on that, but I liked the pacing of the match. I know it was kind of back and forth and crazy flips, but I felt when Pac was in control, it was deliberate and it was methodical. I'm like, yeah, that's what I want from this guy. I want him to sort of methodically take his opponents apart, and that's why I liked it so much. I thought it was cool.
Yeah, I just agree with Meltzer on most things. To me, that was the most compelling match of the night by far. I really, and I'm not a huge fan of, man, I am going into old man brain here. His opponent, the cowboy kid there. I'm sorry.
Hangman Page.
Hangman Page. I mean, he's really new to me, so he's a character I don't know. But I thought that was they can't be the spots all the time. Like, Pac is, yes, he could do all the spots, but like you just mentioned, he's also can be vicious and just physically wear you down, not just by flying through the air. Because I think he realizes that flying through the air is going to get more cheers, and he wants to be the bastard Pac.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And I think overall, solid first episode. Certainly not the best show I'd ever seen. Of course not. But I think it was smart because they've still got somewhere to go. They've still got characters to introduce. And really, did I just have a good time for 2 hours? Yeah, I did. But that's the truth of it. I just enjoyed myself for 120 minutes or whatever it was. And I'm like, okay, we go on to whatever's next. Happy days. Like you said earlier, not everything has to, we build our expectations up in our own head. And then when those expectations aren't reached, I should say, then we're like, oh, I can't believe it. But, it's fine. It's good. We just truck along. We're in a brand new time, a brand new world, a brand new situation. We have to let it evolve, really, even though talking about earlier about next week, it's 6 months down the line that matters, or 1 year down the line. I want WWE to thrive. I want AEW to thrive. And I hope they both start smashing off against each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially now that they're going to be on weekly, they have to learn pacing. And as you said, like, they do have a decent roster, so they have to spread them out. And, we can't be, okay, here's everybody. I mean, that would be a 5-hour first week of television or it would be 4-minute matches across the board. So, no, I thought it was great. I'll be also honest. I thought Shivani was great on commentary.
Dude, I wanted to bring this up because I thought if anyone is going to know, it's going to be you. Now, I'm guessing, did you hear any of his MLW stuff? Because I didn't really. I didn't really hear anything that he did on there.
No, I didn't. So my only Shivani experience is, this is the biggest Nitro in WCW history. And then next week, this is the biggest, like, that's what I know of him. But I tell you, he seemed truly, which compared to Jim Ross, who over some of the pay-per-views, I think you've and a lot of people mentioned has seemed irritated. Shivani seemed truly like he was given a new lease on life.
Totally
like,
agree.
He felt like he and Excalibur, I would be fine if they were a 2-man booth.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. They
were just, Excalibur is fantastic, and I've never heard him before this. And Shivani was great. Like, they were there was no competition, which sometimes can feel like that's what's happening in the booth. And I thought, like, I'm like, please don't say this is the biggest night in wrestling history. Like, please don't say it's Shivani. Please don't. But he did a little bit of nostalgia here and there, but it was not the main thing. And he was truly there to help the whole team, and it definitely showed. So I thought that he was fantastic.
Yeah, no, it was one of my highlights as well. I thought he was brilliant. I really, really did. It was an incredible mix of nostalgia, again, for guys like you and I who remember that. But then I felt like he could easily appeal to somebody who was just getting into wrestling. I thought he was balanced perfectly. And yeah, I think Excalibur benefits that. And yeah, to me, JR's there because he's Jim Ross, right? Best ever, however you want to. Which is fine. There's nothing wrong with living off your legacy a little bit. I will point this out as well as the conversation continues. Apparently, WWE also has issued a statement congratulating AEW, which is amazing. This is from Wrestling Observer. I can't seem to find it on a website, but they've said it's legit and they don't often print stuff that's not. And apparently, they just sent out a statement that said, congratulations to AEW on a successful premiere. The real winners of last night's head-to-head telecast on NXT and AEW are the fans who can expect Wednesday nights to be a competitive and wild ride as this marathon, not a one-off sprint. So I'm going to guess they released that when they saw the numbers. And they were like, we better say something. But look, let's talk about NXT as well, because it has been very AEW focused today, which I understand. Of course, like right. We've touched upon it. That's the shiny new thing. Oh my gosh, run to the shiny new thing. But really, and again, I don't like this whole AEW versus NXT thing from, well, I think this was better than that and so on and so forth. However, if somebody put a gun to my head, I think Adam Cole versus Matt Riddle was the best match I saw all evening. I watched them at different times, but that to me was the highlight. I thought it was incredible. The fact that it opened the show it kind of almost made it feel more special, because you're like, well, this is weird, having this world title amazing match to kick things off. And Yeah, there was so much good on that show. If you've never seen Velveteen Dream, I imagine you got taken in by him because he's crazy, but he's fun. And, you mentioned Ciampa, Finn Balor being back on NXT, which I admittedly randomly predicted on a What Culture video about 3 weeks ago. Didn't actually think it was going to happen, but I thought, it would kind of make sense. These are all cool things, and these are all hopefully ideas that can be expanded and extrapolated on as the weeks continue, to the point where it's not just about, oh my gosh, we had this one cool thing. We can get that, the thing that people love about New Japan, when you go, oh, do you remember when they did this 2 months ago? Now they're paying it off. That's what I hope to see. I want each company to go out of their way to engage me on a long-term level, on a story level. And at the moment, I'd say AEW hasn't done that yet because they haven't had a chance. And hopefully NXT, now that this whole, we've got to do better ratings with them, can just calm down and start giving me those stories that they have been so good at in the past, such as Ciampa coming out at the end. There's a story there. There's a whole backstory.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And as you mentioned, that was part of my reason for tempering expectations is, with AEW, yes, they've had their pay-per-views, but this truly is the beginning of the book. Like, you can't just go, whereas NXT, as I mentioned at the start, I know the characters. I'm invested in the characters. Even just, yes, this week's NXT, okay, it was, for all intents and purposes, it was a mini takeover. I mean,
yeah,
really,
absolutely, yeah.
It was. But if you even go back to their first couple of weeks here on USA, if you saw last week when they had Dijakovic versus Keith Lee, I mean, that was amazing.
It was.
It was just, I'm like, okay, I'm not as big as you, Keith Lee, but I can't do that and never have been able to. But I think NXT, bringing back Balor, bringing in Ciampa, that sets him up for some great stories easily for the next few weeks. I did honestly kind of feel, as much as I wish they would both stop doing it, because it does remind me of, in not a good way, of the original Monday Night Wars. I wish they would maybe stop taking shots at each other.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Though I will say, I believe that putting the tag team match on as the main event for NXT was absolutely intentional, because we know that AEW has been broadcasting that they want to focus on tag team wrestling.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, yeah.
So then putting that, it's like, well, we've got great tag team wrestling too, and here's these two fantastic teams. But I agree with you. I did, in my personal opinion, I felt last night was better on NXT, but I think that's also because, like I said, I mean, what you remember is the closing moments in these shows, and I told you, I jumped out of my seat when Ciampa came out. So it's, it's that kind of a thing, but it wasn't like, oh my God, this was just so much bigger and more of a blowaway. Whereas you almost have to feel encouragement for AEW, because this is their first weekly show, and it was still a good show where they can take that. It's like, okay, here are some pieces where we can improve on, and they've shown that they're smart enough that they will. So I mean, if you think about so many TV shows and some of their first ones, it's like, how did you get a second week out of any of this stuff? But then time goes on and people learn and they do things. So I was encouraged by it. Just again, because of the stuff I expected that didn't happen. And that's in a good way. Because they could easily pull the old WWE thing and put a McMahon in every segment. In their case, put a Rose in every segment. And they didn't, which to me, I think that's a highly positive, because they need to trust all of their talent to contribute and help make the product better.
Totally agree. And the thing that's gone under the radar is, as well, and I'd be intrigued to get your thoughts, I enjoyed Raw this week. Raw's been absolutely buried, which of course it was always going to be. And again, the third hour is always somewhat difficult. And that would be the same for any show. That's not a WWE problem. That's a third hour problem. But look, I had a good time watching it. I think maybe the best thing that's ever happened to them is all this other noise has buried the whole why is Lana kissing Bobby Lashley for 7 hours. No one's talking about that now. But I do think in general, WWE has been a much easier show to watch since the Paul Heyman, Eric Bischoff change. I just do. Not everybody agrees, but it feels far more coherent. It feels far more consistent. I enjoy that more people are being featured. Chad Gable, for example. I'm absolutely loving it. I like the Baron Corbin King gimmick. Hopefully Cedric Alexander gets something out of this, although that's a difficult situation to kind of predict right now. But yeah, I think wrestling, to me, especially this week, I felt excited at the start, and really not one aspect of it has let me down. And while we have done, and I understand why people doing it will argue about, yes, but this rating means that, and what about this, and so on and so forth. The key, for me anyway, is that I've enjoyed it all. I mean, really, the thing that has affected it the most is that we don't know what's going on at Hell in a Cell. We have no idea. And that, I want to point out, WWE, thanks for that. You've screwed my week up entirely. My Saturday now is just going to be trying to do SmackDown and predicting Hell in a Cell because you're going to leave everything so late, but I'm not moaning. Dude, so just in general, man, with NXT and everything else, how have you found, WWE these last few months since we last chatted?
Yeah, I Raw definitely doesn't feel as much of a slog as it has in the past. I definitely have been times where it's like, oh, there's another hour. Oh my God. Where SmackDown, and just to quote you, it being 2 hours, it is a much more palatable and just a smoother thing because it always goes by so quickly. I think this week, again, with the expectations they set, them screaming all the time, season premiere, season premiere, season premiere. And I thought about it, and I think they might have been better to not do a season premiere, which most people in their minds would think of, okay, it's going to be a fresh start when you've got a pay-per-view coming up in 6 days. So you can't really fresh start anything because you've got a bunch of set matches. So that was one of the first things I thought, but I understand they want to the same week as the big competition and last night, and then with SmackDown. That was one thing I took away from it. The other thing and again, just being kind of a nitpicky old guy, they got to stop making it seem like the wrestlers are pulling guys out of the crowd. Like Brock doing that with Dominic, and a couple of weeks ago, like Braun, they made it seem like he power bombed a fan into a bunch of security.
I forgot about that. They did, yeah.
And it's like, especially when we're seeing guys grabbing Sasha Banks, and some months back, some guy literally groping, another wrestler. It's like that's my only kind of like you need to make it seem like you can be there to enjoy it, but we need to separate that a little more. I mean, yeah, most fans know that's Dominic's and that's Rey Mysterio's son, and he's trained to be a wrestler, but being they have that bigger audience and they want to go to a bigger audience, especially if they're going to Fox and they replay this. I mean, yeah, they can broadcast all they want, but people assume, wait, why is this guy yanking someone out of the audience? Oh my God, he's like killing this kid, So that would be my only, again, minor nitpick, because most people do know the story. But I think with a lot of promotions and fans have literally within inches of the wrestlers, we need to maybe make that a little more, an invisible wall there, where it's like, yeah, if they come up to you and approach you and, like when I went to a live show and asked Becky for a picture and she put her arm around me, I'm like, okay, good. That means I can do it now,
Absolutely. That's the way to do it, man. That is 100% the way to do it.
Just she put her arm around me. I'm like, okay, we can do that. Arm around shoulder, but otherwise it's like, okay, I'll just hold my arms at my side. So that was my only, but no, I liked it. I am as eager and still scared that they're gonna screw up the Fiend. Like, please God, do not do it. He needs. And the one thing I wanted to ask you is, I mean, granted, it's in Hell in a Cell, although I was a little worried because WWE put out a poll on Twitter asking how people think it would end, and one of the options was disqualification.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up.
Um,
Worrying, right?
I'm like, it's Hell in a Cell. What exactly is going to. I'm like, but it's also, we've seen them in previous Hell in the Cells recently call the matches off because they beat each other up too much. I'm like, isn't that the point of this?
Exactly. That there's no rules and that you can go crazy.
So I guess my question to you, to turn this around a little bit, is: would you prefer? I mean, obviously it's Hell in a Cell, so I don't think it's going to happen. A complete just Bray, just squash, almost a la Finn Balor match, or would you prefer it kind of be a little bit more drawn out?
I don't mind as long as Bray Wyatt wins.
Okay.
This is my big thing, just because the more I've thought about it, I think it's twofold. Like, am I as a fan or as a critic, whichever one, am I going to be super pissed if Seth Rollins retains? I mean, a little bit, but it's more the wider, it's more what it means on the wider level, because there is nobody out there. Well, I haven't heard anybody out there say, "Oh, I definitely want, I definitely want Seth Rollins to retain." Like, most people I talk to are like, "No, I'd rather Bray Wyatt win. I feel like WWE has something with Bray Wyatt. I like Bray Wyatt. I'd like to see him as a champion." So all of the rhetoric that I'm getting is in support of The Fiend. So if WWE then goes and just books their guy to do what he always does, I'm like, well, man, you really are not on the ball with this. And I think that would be my issue with it. It's just I understand that wrestling companies don't really listen to the fans 9 times out of 10 because they have their own idea. But I think you have a situation here where I like Seth Rollins. I've got nothing against him, but I don't think he's the greatest champion that we've ever seen. I think you could argue that maybe we've come to the end of his, a natural championship run. I know that he hasn't held it that long, given he only won it back at SummerSlam. But hey, you play with the cards that you're dealt. And I just think if Bray Wyatt doesn't walk away at Hell in a Cell as a champion, I don't even care if it's close, whatever. But I think if he doesn't, then you've just made him into Bray Wyatt again. Do you know what I mean? The Fiend becomes Bray Wyatt, the guy that talks a good game, gets everybody super excited, but when push comes to shove, he never actually delivers. And I don't think we can go back to that. I understand it because, so many people are like, oh, he's a brand new character and we have to treat him as such. But he's not a brand new character. He's a very old character who does have some baggage that comes along with him, and we need to make sure we put him into a position where that's not an issue, and that we can say, hey, we understand what we've got with Bray, and we're going to go all in. So that's my thing. Especially, did you see the interview that he did today?
No.
It's on some American television show, and straight away I groaned. I was like, no, don't do this. Like, Undertaker never used to do this. I got a bit nerdy about it, but then I watched it. Fantastic, done completely in character. He's completely the Firefly Funhouse version of Bray. He comes across as creepy, and I was like, that is just wonderful. You're just wonderful, Bray Wyatt. And I just think it's his time. Like, you can go back through the ages. The Rock, Steve Austin, they all had these. I'm not saying it's going to be that big, but they all had these moments where it felt like, oh, this is the time to pull the trigger. And they would do it in the past. So we should absolutely do it again here. There's no reason not to. Seth Rollins winning just goes back to the same old. And we've seen that, and it's fine. But I think we should shuffle things around.
Yeah, I completely agree. In fact, I think, we talked about this all the time. I think Seth losing doesn't hurt him. I think Bray or The Fiend losing kills him completely.
I do. I really do. And I think it kills the fans' interest in him as well.
Yeah, and because I know they don't necessarily want to cheer him, but he is the hottest thing. And not only WWE, but I would say prior to, this week with AEW, like, he's one of the hottest things that Firefly Funhouse, remember the first week? We're like, what in blazes is this? Or even first when that puppet came up, it's like, what is this box what is that thing? And now it's people, it's by far one of the most popular things people could ever hope for, because it's just so engaging. He is, this of anybody, he is all in on this character. And it shows. He cares about it. He cares about being the Fiend as well as, the semi-evil Mr. Rogers. Like, he is all in with this. And heck, where I do take some comfort, he makes fun of Vince openly. I mean, it's like, how many people can really say they're allowed to make blatant fun of Vince, and Vince only being interested in what makes him money? I mean, it's just it's meta, but it's like, but yeah, I mean, it still has to go through Vince, but there has to be some trust that, and I think he's earned it. I thought his last week, when he honestly dominated Braun at the end of that match, was just remarkable. Like, I think that put him to a next level of, this is a guy to take, not that he wasn't before, but this is a guy to take completely seriously. And I'm the same way. As long as he walks away with the title, I've mentioned this on Q&As. I completely disagree with people like, it's not his character. Baloney. It's not his character. What was it? Not the Undertaker's character to want the title because he was meant to be a gravedigger? Was it not Kane's character? Kamala had title matches. I mean, what was that? I mean, he was meant to be a savage from someplace. It's that I don't buy that one bit. So I'm excited, and I agree. I think it is Seth's time, much as I also think this Friday, I think it's Kofi's time too.
Well, I mean, it's a great segue, man, because that's absolutely something we should talk about as well, because especially given that the main discussion was about ratings, realistically, unless something crazy happens, the most highly rated show of this week will be SmackDown. The Fox promotion has been crazy. They got The Rock on that, which spiked ticket sales to levels I don't think WWE was expecting. So there's no two ways about it. That is, I'm not very good at predicting these things because I don't live in America. I don't really understand what Fox averages, but it certainly sounds like if it did anything less than 3.5 million, people would be devastated by this number. And I don't know how they're going to fit it all in, because obviously it's a 2-hour show. The Rock's going to want some time. We've got all these legends, unless Brock Lesnar is going to kill Kofi Kingston, which is, you are treading on eggshells there a little bit, but you imagine that will go a short while at least. And then you've got the ladder match between Kevin Owens and Shane McMahon. You've got the 4 women having their tag team match. So there's a lot going on to this show. And really, the big question, whatever The Rock does is not going to... I've seen so many things now. The Rock's going to come back. He's going to... The Rock ain't having no feud with no one. The Rock's going to pick someone to punch in the face, and that'll be that. And you know what? More power to him. He's The Rock. He can do whatever he wants. And he worked to get himself in that position. But... it really does come down to what is going to happen with that WWE title. And like you said, much like the whole Seth Rollins things, I just think Kofi Kingston's thing has naturally come to an end. It's not a bad thing by any stretch of the imagination. But to me, especially when I look at it, I put my business cap on. I understand how Fox and Brock Lesnar have this relationship because he was obviously so big in the UFC when the UFC was on Fox. You'd be crazy not to at least have a chat and say, look, I know that we're just the TV people, but you understand that we can draw a lot of people in if you mention Brock Lesnar as your champion, right? So that all makes sense. And also, given what he did do on Monday, I completely agree with your reservations, but he still did come across like an absolute monster. I think if he rolls into SmackDown and beats Kofi Kingston, you're like, yeah, okay, cool. I can't be too mad at it.
Yeah, I agree. I haven't been, just because of his absenteeism. Like, honestly, when Brock first won the Money in the Bank and he was there weekly, I was all in. I'm like, look at him. He's like using it as a boombox. Like, he looks excited. He looks like he wants to be there. And now, I obviously and again, we don't begrudge him. I mean, hey, WWE made the deal with him, and he's just following the deal that they made. But I'm the same way. I mean, you have to believe that. I mean, Fox is like, yeah, I think we need to do this. Not that we don't like Kofi, but you want to talk about a mainstream eye, and again, because they want to go more to the real sports field, there's no one more real sports than Brock Lesnar. I do have the same question in my head. I'm like, when they're going over, this is going to be there, that's going to be there. I'm like, it's a 2-hour show, right? They're going over all these people. Like, where are you going to Are there 3 matches advertised? Are they the only 3 matches where it's going to be interviews and all this stuff? Hopefully they keep Flair and Hogan to a minimum because Monday was awful. Frankly, I'm pretty sure Flair might have taken some liquid courage before he went out there.
Yeah, I think so. Although they smashed it in the ratings, man. My word.
Oh, their names. I mean, it's what. Well, I mean, that's part of why we know Friday is going to be crazy. The Rock, those 2, Austin. I mean, they could have stopped at those 4. That's it.
Yeah, nice.
And it's going to bring everybody in. So I'm really excited. I will say, I was kind of sitting in my living room on Tuesday night, 8:00, like, what am I supposed to do? Like there's no SmackDown on.
Yeah, it's weird, wasn't it? It was weird.
It was
strange.
Very weird. And then Wednesday, I'm like, criminy. Like, do I need to get a second television? Honest to God, when the Monday Night Wars were going on, I literally would have Raw on one and Nitro on another one, not in the same room, but kind of down the hall in my bedroom where I could see it. So I would be able to see them both. I'm like, this is where your life has become. This is obviously pre Hulu and all these other options. So, but yeah, I'm excited for tomorrow to see what they bring out and how they play it out.
I am. I think it'll be fun. I think it'll feel like a big deal, yeah. And I think it will smash in the ratings. And look, if it ends with Brock Lesnar winning the championship, I think it makes sense, right? I think it makes sense. It's a big moment, and you want a big moment as best you can.
Yeah, the closing moment of the shows is what most people tend to recognize. And as much as you think about WrestleMania, it's like, yeah, it went on way too long, but that closing moment of Becky standing there with both belts. And a closing moment on the first, SmackDown is an existing show, but the first show on Fox, how could they not want Brock Lesnar standing there with the title over his head?
Yeah, I know, man.
I can't, I can't come up with any other reasoning. Seth Rollins has beaten him twice this year, but I can't in my head see a way around that happening, and and I'm fine with it.
I am too. Like, I like Kofi Kingston a lot, but I wouldn't call myself the biggest Kofi Kingston fan ever. But even I don't have a problem with it in any. It just with everything the way it's come together, it just makes so much sense. And I would be like, yeah, good on you guys. You did the right thing. Do it again.
Yeah, I think the only problem, generally to me with Kofi outside of the Orton story is his entire story was 11 years in WrestleMania moment. Like that was all that they gave him as far as legit, in my opinion. Yeah, once we got to Randy Orton, then it became, you did this and you did that, and they gave him a little more depth. But before that, they were for a month. And the winner at WrestleMania, I'm like, we know. I'm like, that was a month ago. Move on. You don't have to keep telling us he had a great moment at WrestleMania. We know. Pick something new.
Yeah. No, I totally agree, man. But one thing I definitely want to talk about with you before it ends, because there's a few other people that I could talk to you about this. I know we touched on it briefly, but I want to talk about it sort of on a one-to-one kind of a level. I couldn't quite believe when I was watching Dynamite how much it actually felt like WCW, and not just because of Tony Schiavone, but because of the coloring, the way they had interviews in front of the entranceway, which is so World Championship Wrestling. Like Mean Gene would do that, would do that all the time. The layout of certain things, even the vignette, outside the White House to me felt very WCW, but good WCW. I'm not talking about when Vince Russo came in and ruined it. When I sat back and thought about it, I was like, did I actually expect them to go that? It may just be because that's what they grew up on, right? Especially Cody Rhodes. His dad was synonymous with all of it. But, as a guy that sort of lived through that time in the mid-90s, did you take that away as well? Or is that mostly just me looking for something that maybe is not there?
No, I definitely had that vibe from it. I don't know. Maybe it was also, I hate to say it, but it felt like their cameras were a little I don't want almost a little grainier.
No, no, you're right. That's what I thought. It had the WCW grain look.
Yeah,
which is not a thing, but it is a thing at the same time.
Yeah, where I'm watching NXT, I'm like, wow, this is much clearer of a picture, whereas that did have more of the throwback feel. Shivani definitely added to that. Jim Ross, of course, adds to that. But no, I definitely had that feel where it's like, okay, let's take some new people and put them in that environment. And I don't, as long as they avoid, because that's, I think, that has been my concern all along is, okay, you can pick some of the good things from WCW, but like one of the big things is, as we all know, is when you're overbooking, way overbooking. I mean, that was one of Dusty's things, like the Dusty finish, and just completely overdoing things. You even mentioned it, the distracted ref finishes. There was at least 3 kicks to the nether regions, and it's like, okay, we don't have to have screwy finishes all the time on our weekly show. So that gave me, I'm like, okay, hopefully they see that and think, okay, that wasn't great. But I definitely had that WCW feel, and not in a bad way, because I enjoy nostalgia. But yeah, it definitely had that feel, like you said, from the entranceway, and I like the interviews at the top of the ramp. I'm not a big fan necessarily of interviews in the ring, especially like right after a match, because the person is probably gassed. It's like,
yeah, I agree with that. Yeah,
you're asking them to, it's like sometimes cutting a promo could be, I mean, unless you're MJF, who could, he's another level when it comes to cutting promos. But some people, it's like, you need to give them a breather. So let's do that. But no, I thought it was great. I liked the more, I guess, almost subdued layout of everything. Cause like all the, in WWE, like all the lighting, the boards on the side of the ring, they're lit up, and the ring posts are lit up. It's like, it can be distracting. There's nothing wrong with just having a simple ring with the, with the ring curtains and that. So no, I definitely got that feel from it, for sure.
Yeah. No, dude, I totally agree. And I like it as well. Like, I don't want that booking at the end, but I'm happy for the feel. It always used to feel unique to WWE, and I think they smashed it. I'll read this out as well, just as we draw things to a close, because it kind of sums it up personally on the Wrestling Observer website as ever, because I feel like I know people are up and down with them, no pun intended, but I think when they come to facts, they go out of their way to get things right. So basically, Dynamite Premiere averaged 1.4 million. The real thing they're going on about, though, is that in the 18 to 49 demo, which of course is what so many people go after if an advertiser, it was 0.68, which was second of the evening, which is pretty damn impressive.
Yeah.
And it was also more than double than the 0.32 rating that NXT on USA pulled, which is crazy. I mean, it's absolutely... That's who you want to appeal to. That's who Paul Heyman is trying to appeal to at the moment with Raw. They want teenagers. And they go on to say the most watched show on cable was an MLB game between the Tampa Bay Rays and Oakland Athletics, which did 3.9 million viewers. And just to give you an idea, that did a 1.03 rating in the 18 to 49 demo. And again, Dynamite did 0.68. So it's really good. It's really good for an, again, and as Stan has already said, it's the first one. And, the Beverly Hills remake came out recently, and that absolutely set the world on fire, I'm led to believe. And then 1 week later, we were down, something like 55%. So intrigue and fascination and curiosity is always a wonderful tool. And now we need to see what people are going to do next week. But I will say, if AEW were relying on a good first show to get people back in, I don't think they have anything to worry about. There was a lot there to... And they didn't go too far with it either. My big worry is what they were going to do, a bit like what NXT this week. NXT can get away with it because I don't think they'll actually drop below 800,000. I think that'll be a solid, if anything, they'll go up, but I think that'll be a solid number. Whereas AEW, you don't want to chase anybody off. You don't want to send anybody crazy. You want to say, hey, here's an idea of what we're going to do. Please hang around with us. And down the line, obviously we will ramp things up and we'll take things down and we'll go on a roller coaster. That's just how things work. But talking about here on the 3rd of October, as we record this, it's pretty good all around. And I can imagine that everybody at AEW is pretty happy, and it kind of has outdone a lot of people's expectations, including experts. So in that sense, it's a success for week 1 at least. It is a success.
Absolutely. I mean, the only thing I know they talked to him. I would have maybe liked to see one tag team match from the tournament on week 1.
I agree, actually. Yeah, good show.
Just to bring them in, but then it comes, okay, so what do I cut? And as you mentioned on Ups and Downs, they didn't have a lot of non-wrestling stuff, so it's like, so what do you replace? I think MJF being introduced in the first week was important because I think he is going to be a huge part of that company. So it's like, it's one of those things, okay, I'm saying that, but then it comes as any time people are like, well, why wasn't this here? I'm like, so what do you propose they should have cut? You liked all the matches, but you wanted to see X, Y, and Z there, but who do you take off of the show? So I understand, but no, I think I'm encouraged. I think next, like we even said at the start, I think next week to see, even if they have just I think a drop off is probably expected, but I think the amount of it is going to be crucial. As you mentioned, these other shows, and yeah, they can come out of the gate and there's a lot of excitement, but how do they follow up and how do people be like, oh, I need to come back next week? So, which
is what wrestling's all about, right? That is wrestling. That is wrestling summed up. What do we do to get them back next week? And that's all it is. And if you're able to figure that out, you will have a successful product, even if it is Kai and Tai wanting to chop off Val Venis' penis. that was, I always go back to that one. When anybody tells me the Attitude Era storyline wise was better than now, I go, it's not true. Both shows last night were probably better than anything we saw in the Attitude Era.
That's a lot of rose-colored glasses, because there was a lot of really like that. Yeah.
But they just happened to have stars. That was the benefit of the Attitude Era. They had people you really gave a shit about, like Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock. People forget. I know he's not really controversial, but he was never of that level. But the Undertaker would draw people in. Kane at one point was a massive deal. That's the thing. Everybody felt like a star then. That's something that they've lost. But hopefully now, as we do go back to those times, we get back to that as well. Maybe this is what sparks the light under everything. I don't know. I've never been here before. Last time I was here, I was a child. So now I'm experiencing it. And I don't know. I don't know what to expect.
It definitely feels more of a competition and respect them, because they did than Impact ever could have done, because they tried. God knows they tried, and it just was never in the cards. And I actually think going up against NXT as opposed to Raw or SmackDown proper, I think that's a better and smarter way for AEW to build that base, because they're completely different audiences. So I think, it is very encouraging.
And also,
overall.
and if you're a WWE fan, listen to this and you want some ammunition, Raw killed AEW. So just start claiming that. Just start going, well, Raw absolutely kicked his ass. Yeah, it did. So you can just say that and everything's going to be okay. And don't worry, SmackDown will absolutely destroy it. SmackDown will destroy Raw. SmackDown will just run through it like a freight train. And that's why I'm excited about SmackDown. I really, really am. I can't believe, again, I know I'm kind of repeating myself, but the fact we have a pay-per-view on Sunday, and I don't care about that. I care more about the television show known as SmackDown. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. But that just shows they're doing something right, that they're doing what they need to, because even us who've seen it all, we're really excited about it.
Yeah, it's true. No, it's true. And we will talk about it, obviously, when it happens, and there's all the actually one last thing, man, because I'll get your opinion on it. What do you think about all this CM Punk stuff that's now been confirmed by the man himself? I mean, there are rumors out there that it's been signed. That's not confirmed, but it is confirmed that Fox offered him a trial, and CM Punk has confirmed that he went. I mean, my worry is now it's already spun out of control, and it's just going to have a negative effect on live shows, if you know what I mean, as people are desperate to see him come back. But it's fascinating. It's certainly fascinating.
I'll be honest. I'm one of those, and probably in the minority, where I've not necessarily understood the loyalty that a lot of fans have given him. He seems to be mellowing out more, and I understand, whatever his experience was, but he wasn't exactly the most, from what I've understood, cordial to people.
No,
I also I understand what he's doing from, hey, if he can make a career out of this, why wouldn't he? I mean, obviously Fox is opening the treasure chest, so why not? I just wonder how much of as time goes on and he's not getting back in the ring and making that very clear, where people are going to start being resentful and negative and be like, well, why'd you sell out and go back in the first place if you weren't going to get in the ring? It's like, I would love to see him. And I think you even mentioned, say, on your podcast, like, especially if he's going to, or I heard somewhere, like, if they're giving him reign to be honest about what's going on, not towing the, the line where, oh, it was, this was wonderful, when it's like, no, it wasn't. So if he can be on the Fox Sports show where he's completely honest about things, then I'm all in, because I'd like to hear from someone within, that is reviewing the product within WWE, to be honest about stuff, if it works or doesn't work. He's always had a good gift of gab, so of course he'd be great to listen to. I mean, him being able, heck, I'll take him over 90% of the people that most times that get thrown out there as, experts on stuff, on any sports or sports game or whatever, because they just recycle the same, phrases over and over, where I think Punk would not be that. So, but we all know it's all a work until it happens. So,
well, yeah, damn right. Well, that is the other thing as well, right? Like, if Fox want to run it as a legit show, is Punk allowed to say whatever the hell he wants? You know what I mean? Like, that opens up a whole other can of worms, because WWE aren't going to like that, especially if, I don't know how they would do it, but let's say it's kind of kayfabe, kind of not, I don't know. And you tune in and Punk's going, well, that was a crap match. They're going to be like, whoa, this is not good. So yeah, I'm absolutely fascinated about what this will become. But hey, I tell you, there's rumors going around now he's going to turn up on Friday. I don't believe those. I don't believe those for 1 second. But they're there. If you care, they are absolutely there. So I don't think this week is over yet. I don't think him turning
up on Friday would really do much, because they've already got so much stuff, and it's not going to. I don't know. I feel like CM Punk, they almost want to make that kind of a known thing, because that would bring so many more eyes.
I mean. And also, if you've announced The Rock, don't put CM Punk on that show. You don't need to. You've got The Rock. That's enough. Do you know what I mean? You're shooting your load, as they say, and there's no need to do that. So don't. Exactly. Don't do it.
Don't do that.
Yeah, you're going to get a great rating anyway. Have that for week 2, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do I know? So there you go. That's the lay of the land at the moment. Like I say, all that information broke mere seconds before Stan and I sat down to record it. So I thought, well, we've got to talk about it. How could we not? Stan, as always, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your support. And obviously, this time around, thank you for your patience as well. This is about the 3rd time Stan and I tried to get this going, but we don't need to talk about that. But yeah, thanks as always, man. I appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure. The best things in life are worth the wait, and that is you, my bald friend.
Oh,
You're always worth the wait.
That's very kind, man. That is very kind. Again, if you'd like to come on the podcast, you can. Patreon.com/Simon316. Check it out or not. It's all good. YouTube channel where the podcast will be, as well as on audio if you're listening to that right now. And that's just Simon is Pro Wrestling Show or podcast. Search for that. Twitter and Instagram at Simon316. Wrestling merchandise, SimonMiller.BigCartel.com. The whole podcast is sponsored by PinsAndKnuckles.com. Check them out for all your merch needs. And that's that. Go lay down. The Thursday craziness is out the way. Prepare yourself for SmackDown, and we will talk to you again very soon.